So I'm really tired today because I sat up late watching qualifying on Saturday night and then sat up for an hour and a half watching the race last night and then sat up for another 3 hours arguing with people online about how wrong they were about the
Discussing with
McLaren.
people online, Rod. You were in a discourse. This is not
I
arguing.
was prompting like engagement.
Just getting the impressions. Tell me what's your problem, Rod? Like why would it know? You know what? Tell me what you think the temperature of the market is. Why would people be annoyed here? Is it because Oscar Piastri kind of pushed his way past whatever that other guy's name is?
I
Lando
don't
Norris?
even remember his name.
Forgotten what his name is. Is it because once they worked out that they couldn't maybe win, that maybe they should just swap those drivers over and take away that second position from Oscar and give it to Lando, even though he wasn't very fast yesterday, during the race, so that he could more effectively chase down Max Verstappen, and they would have got the same amount of points for the constructors as well. Is it that the commentary team is all British and they just really care about Lando Norris trying to maybe win a championship?
Oh, you're getting somewhere. You're getting somewhere there. You're getting somewhere there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people online who seem to be very, very angry at McLaren, mostly pro Lando Norris. And about half of those people are like, this is outrageous. The team should be supporting Lando Norris at all costs, and he should be being gifted wins. And the other half of the people are that, but they also write these like 3 or 4 paragraphs of justification, then they just say that at the end. That Lando Norris should just be gifted this on a silver platter. And he's entitled to a championship. He just is entitled to it.
Yeah. I think that maybe the markets, the people might have this wrong, that they all thought that Lando Norris was Lewis Hamilton, but he's actually Nico Rosberg.
What?
And then
That's a big call.
And then Oscar Piastri is Lewis Hamilton. Come later to the team. Let the team come up. You got to see the team through the hard times. And then once the car starts getting really good, you get a really great driver who's going to go deliver you a championship. And maybe that driver is going to be Oscar Piastri.
Look, I don't know. Here's the thing. Like, if you only followed our Threads account, and which is mostly me posting, by the way, if you didn't know, if you only followed that, you might think
I don't respond to myself.
Well, good. You might think completely like Aussie bias, of course, absolutely. Pro Oscar, blah, blah, blah. The truth is, I think that Lando Norris is a brilliant driver, probably even a little bit better than Piastri overall.
Yeah. I was being ghosted.
Has had a great year. Yeah. He's in a great car. Every bit deserving. Like, I want to see him take it to Max in the championship. Sure. Of course I want that. The two things that seem to be going on is, number one, all the Lando Norris fans are aggrieved about what happened in Hungary still. So if we need to relitigate that, I'm happy to. Because Lando Norris was not the victim in that race. I'd have to remind them all. He was the villain, not the victim. So anyway, there's that. But they can't get over that. The other thing that they can't get over is we just want to beat Max Verstappen. We want anybody except for Max Verstappen to win. And Lando Norris is winning. So that seems to be like what's stirring a lot of this on. And I said as well, like I said before, we started the season with Max Verstappen winning a race by 22 seconds. And then Lando Norris goes out in Zandvoort, absolutely sets the friggin' track on fire, and wins the race by 23 seconds. And all of the little YouTube thumbnails and headlines were like, a statement of intent from Lando Norris. This is it. As if like, this is the charge. And I feel like everybody convinced themselves 2024 World Drivers' Championship, Lando Norris. And it's like, well, but just hold on a second, because that was Lando Norris's second win. Not just this year, not in his whole career, in his whole life. He's won 2 races. And the other one he won because of a safety car, if you remember. Now, he's had other races where he was very close and probably should have won. Again, Hungary doesn't count because that was a mulligan from the team, but he wasn't racing Oscar wheel to wheel and got in front of him on merit. He got in front of him through the team advantaging him with the pit stops. So look, yes, it was an impressive win from Lando in Zandvoort, but it's just he's not the kind of driver who has proven that everybody else should get out of his way and just let him through and let him win. Like he just hasn't earned that. He just hasn't.
No, but in the minds of McLaren fans and Norris fans, he has. He's been there for years. It's now his time.
That's their problem.
I know that's their problem, but the sport is built on fandom, right? That's the only reason it exists, is for people to get behind the drama of the racing. And it's good that people have strong feelings about why they think that their guy wearing that color clothes should do that thing, right? And why he should be the guy. it's tricky. I think it's always tricky with Formula One drivers, especially because I think we pick our favorites a lot of the time. And then when it comes down to it, there's so many things outside of their individual control that makes it tricky. Like it's really easy to become aggrieved as a fan. But then also, they're highly stressful situations, and you don't like your idea or ideal driver or your idea of a driver to be challenged by like the way they react in those stressful situations. So, Norris in the post-race interview yesterday, they're like, disappointing, how do you feel about Oscar? And he's like, he had a great race, and congratulations to him, or whatever he said. And it was like snark up to 95%. Like, yeah, I'd be annoyed about that too. And Oscar was like pretty bereft as well. He was just like, really sucks. Like that was really rough and bad. But I don't think people really like looking at the fact that Norris can be a bit, a bit gruff and a bit direct and a bit annoyed, and like he's a bit of a killer. Because he's young, fun, like I'm the original streamer. Like, guys, get behind me. I'm fun and cool. And actually, he's just a bit like, I fucking want to kill all of these guys and win this fucking Formula One championship. Like, I'm a real, like, I'm not that fun all the time because now it's important. Now there are stakes. It's not just, wow, we finished in the points. We're on the way up. It's like, oh, I'm actually in the fight for this
another podium. Like,
and we really, and we really see it we really see these drivers for what they are. And I think that if you're going to draw a direct comparison between him and Oscar Piastri, Oscar is just like so calm and so bland and so focused. Yeah, it's almost to a fault, right? That he's a bit dry. I mean, in humor and in personality.
Oh, extremely. But also maybe catches you unawares when he pulls a move, say around the outside of turn 4.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I think that, and that was pretty clean and good on the McLaren drivers for keeping it all good. But it definitely caught Lando unawares. Like he was just like, oh God, he's next to me. And I can't even, if I turn in now, it's game over for both of us. And then I'm going to get, a real talking to from Daddy Brown. I don't want that. And then it was done. Like he couldn't get near him for the rest of the race.
Yeah.
Which obviously shows that Oscar Piastri is the best driver in the world right now. Duh.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You try and point out to Lando Norris fanboys and girls, maybe Lando should be driving better. And if he's so great and if he deserves the priority, treatment by the team for the championship, then why is Piastri just driving over the top of him like that? It's like, It's like, well, what? I mean, he outdrove him. He just outdrove him yesterday. And there's all this talk on the radio about, what is it, Papaya rules, Papaya racing, whatever that was. And they were like pressuring McLaren Daddy to say, like, what was that about? And Zach Brown was like, look, it means that they can drive. They have to be fair. They can't take each other out. The typical rules of engagement that most teammates have when they're in this kind of situation. But they were like, but what was the agreement? What was the agreement before the race? He's like, the only agreement they had was that they would fan out at turn 1, not let anyone else pass, just form a big McLaren block for turn 1. Once they got through turn 1, it was racing time. I mean, remember, like, Papaya Racing, there's racing right there in the name. You got to race.
Exactly.
It's not Papaya follow Lando home for a win. It's like, get out there and race, boys.
That's right. And I think that they're probably learning, and all teams, Ferrari's been bad at this for ages, right? Of the trying to work out, well, we want the drivers to race and we need to keep 2 good drivers happy. It's the problem when you have no clear number 1. You could argue Ferrari does now because they're dumping Sainz, but the last couple of seasons they haven't really had a clear number 1.
Yeah.
And McLaren have struggled with the same problem as well. And so how do you keep 2 drivers happy who are both going for the win or both going for a podium or both going for better points, who both are pretty competitive? Like, there's no clear, other than, I think you're right. I think the Norris is a better driver at this point in their careers. He's more experienced, definitely. But on his day, Oscar's going to beat him like we saw yesterday. But at what point does the team go like, we really need to work out how to get these guys both home but happy with the result, but we also need to win this race. And I think, if I think back to maybe how, Mercedes used to manage these things, they would have split the strategies. There is no way that if this was just Hamilton and Rosberg, that either of those drivers would have been happy being on the same strategy as the other guy. Like, could you imagine Hamilton and Rosberg,
Yeah, they used to
Rosberg would
always
have
call
said,
for different strategies.
I will have the other strategy then.
Yeah.
Like, whatever he's doing, I want the opposite of. Like, I will go long. Like,
or
I
if
don't
we've
want to
determined
be...
if we've determined that one strategy is the best and I'm leading, then I want the best strategy, and you can't give the other guy the other strategy. That was the other thing. It was
Exactly
like, you can't split us, because then that's not fair, because then that's not the best strategy, because what if he wins?
Yeah, exactly. But so we didn't get any of that, though. Like, it just, I mean, we didn't hear anything about it, I don't think, as far as I can tell. So,
well, I don't think either of the McLarens could have one stopped. So that's really the question. I mean, and they asked them both, do you want a one stop? And they were both like, oh no, thank you very much. Thanks for asking, but no, I'm not interested in that. So they didn't want a one stop, so that's fine. That's their choice. The other thing is, again, after Hungary, not to go back to that, I know all the Lando Norris people are like their faces are turning red as I mentioned Hungary, but they were crying out, don't let these guys drive. What are you doing? Why is the team interfering? When what they really mean is the team shouldn't interfere unless it's interfering in Norris's favour. Because there's nothing fairer than let them drive, let them race, let the best man win. There can be no arguments after that.
Yeah, exactly right.
And that's what they do, and then no one's happy.
Yeah. No, I know. I don't think...
They're like, let them drive. Like, no, we didn't mean that. We didn't mean let Oscar win.
Not in this way. Yeah, I don't think it's getting in the way for McLaren. I think I've been exceptionally impressed by McLaren over the last few seasons. Like, they really have gone incremental improvement. There's no big blow-ups. They've got great talent all over their organization, and they've just been getting better and better and better. To consistently be beating the Mercedes Works team as well is pretty amazing. And I don't think that this... I would say that Zach Brown is unflapped after this weekend. You're like, well, this is just how racing goes. 2 and 3, wish we'd gotten the win. We'll come back next week, and and it helps because it's consistency, right? I don't think either driver walks away from this weekend being like, God, I might never win a race again. That was my one shot. And I don't even think the driver's that perturbed. I think that the fandom is getting more upset than Oscar Piastri or Lando Norris. Lando's probably sitting there being like, fuck, I'd really love to be able to win this world championship. Those 3 points would have been really good. And if it was for the win and second, maybe he'd even be more annoyed. But this is just second and third. So he's like, well, I'll come back stronger next week. And Max finished pretty far down. I think people are making out the stakes to be way higher than they actually are. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, part of, I think, why people are not taking it so well is especially because Red Bull were nowhere this week, had no pace. Not just Perez, but Verstappen just had no answer for anything, qualified badly, and then just went kind of nowhere in the race. And they saw that as the big opportunity for Lando. And these are exactly the kind of opportunities that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So,
Lando, take it.
I worked it out, and lots of people have worked it out. Oh, Lando has to win every race. And even if Verstappen finishes second, but if Lando gets 5 fastest laps or whatever, everyone did all those combinations. It's a totally different, formula if Lando wins, but Verstappen is 8th compared to second. Yeah. Totally different. And I get all that. But, I mean, there's actually a lot going on if you look at the championship. And, you could say... this is the point I was going to say before, was I don't think McLaren really did anything wrong. You could look at them as like, oh, you lost the win. 2 and 3 instead of 1 and 2. That's a bad call. It's like, I don't think it is a bad call. I think they got unlucky. I think Leclerc did very well and got a little bit lucky. Got very lucky and did a bit well. But, I don't think they're walking away with any negatives, really. Yeah.
I don't think they would have
raced to finish 1 and 2.
They could have raced this race any different. I think if you'd asked them, what would you have done differently, they might have just gone like, I probably would have just done exactly the same thing again.
Probably.
They got lucky in some points as well. Drivers didn't crash at the start.
Yeah.
Got away with it.
There have been races where especially Piastri's strategy was pretty junk and he paid the price for it. So it makes it it makes it hard to look through all of the races and go, oh yeah, but look, Lando won this one, and where was Oscar? Like P4. Like, well, yeah, because the team strategy was no good for him that week. Or, there's races where Oscar was on the podium and, Lando's back in sort of 4th and 5th. And it's like, well, they're both driving good years. They both had moments of brilliance and races where they struggled. That'll probably continue too. So it's hard to say, well, the championship is up for grabs for Lando Norris because he's going to win 5 of the next 8 races and he just needs Piastri to help him in the other 3. It's like, that's junk. That is absolute junk.
Yeah. There's also when it's this congested as well, I don't think that the maths just works out like it has in previous years, right? When it's like, it's just Hamilton and Verstappen, and we'll just this guy has to win these races, and Verstappen has to come second, and that's how it will work out math wise. It just doesn't get anywhere near
it's
that.
Like what's that thing? The 3-body problem. It's like, those are the 3 bodies: Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes.
Yeah, exactly right. So how are you going to kind of even accommodate these things, right? That you're somehow going to be like, okay, we just as long as Norris doesn't end up off the podium in any of these races, he'll have a shot. It's like, what did you think? Like, how does it change their approach? How would it change McLaren's approach at all over the next races? Every single race is its own separate thing, and they're going to go in there on race day being like, it's going to maximize the points for the team. Because I think McLaren I think they would be looking at the constructors being like, that's the championship. That's the one to win. I was
going to say,
that is all in our hands now.
We can look at their constructors because, like, McLaren are on 438 points. They should really, from all rights, have jumped Red Bull this race, but they probably will next race, right? But Ferrari are on 407 points, and both of their drivers are there. And you could argue they're in the second fastest car right now. So they can't exactly take their eye off the Constructors' Championship either, because first thing, they have to pull clear from Red Bull and Ferrari. I mean, all it takes is, a DNF for one of the McLaren drivers, and both Ferraris on the podium. Easy. And that is game on for the constructors. And that's the last thing that should be happening right now. So I think McLaren are absolutely right to focus on the constructors, leave the 2 drivers to drive and race. And, this sounds harsh, but fuck the Drivers' Championship. If Lando is good enough, he'll go out and win it. And I hope he does. I want to see him do that. That would be amazing.
He'll need some luck anyway, right? He'll need luck. He'll need Max Verstappen to have off weekends. He'll need crashes. Like, he'll need things to go his way. Like, he was always going to need to win the championship anyway. So
if you think you deserve the championship, go and win some fucking races.
Exactly. Well, you can say that to anyone.
Exactly. That's the
whole point. That's the game. It's the game.
That's what the fucking sport is, mate.
Yeah. It's not called Formula Everyone.
It's not. This is what I tweeted. The tweet that got 400 likes or something. You don't get a prize for showing up. You've got to go and fucking race and win.
Yeah. No, that's right. That's tricky though, because if you were Zach Brown right now, thinking about, Papaya World Championship, you kind of be going like, it'd be really good though, boys. Don't crash into anyone to try to win these races, because, like, especially you, Lando, because I know you could go and win this championship, but it'd be really nice if you both just raced really cleanly, really consistently, really well, and just got on the podium for the rest of the season. They'll run away with that Constructors' Championship. Because Perez is nothing.
It should take care of itself. All they have to do is just keep doing that.
If they just run the second half, like this last third or quarter of the season, like they've run the entire season up to this point, no one will catch them. They've got the best car. And I don't see it going away. There's not quite enough time. Maybe by the time we get to the US, there'll be another set of upgrades for teams. And Mercedes is still mucking about with different floors, and like they have for the last 3 seasons, trying to work out what floor, parquet or carpet. We still don't know. And every time they try something, then something goes wrong, and they can't properly test it. It's
like got the swatches going like this one or that.
Holding them up against their drivers, being like, does it match?
Home renovation jokes for everyone. Well, look, I don't know. Any last thoughts about this? Because there's been half an hour on just this. Like, I thought it would go on, but yeah, half an hour. Let's wrap it up.
It's fun. I think it's fun. That's my final thoughts. Is that this is exactly the kind of turmoil you want. I think everybody's got to remember though, their Lando boy is turning into a Lando man, and their Lando man might not be the same guy that they fell in love with, who was the punchy 20-year-old who was like, I'm going to make it in Formula One. And now he's a grown-up man being like, all shall bend the knee before me and my desert. I mean, we hated this about Max as well, that he was like, he played the heir apparent. Like, I will be a Formula One champion. It just has to go my way. So if everyone could just let me get that done, so because you could all just move out of the way and let me win this one. There's nothing worse than people than F1 drivers thinking they have a rightful Formula One championship in their future.
We shall see. So,
like Charles Leclerc once did, I'm sure that he thought that was going to be it. That he was going to the right team, and that he thought that World Championship was in his, story.
I mean,
but he has to settle for 2 Monza wins in his career.
There is a certain year that comes to mind. 2 feuding McLaren drivers who took points off each other, only for a plucky young Ferrari driver to sneak right past them and win the championship by 1 point in the last race. I mean, that's in my lifetime that happened.
Yeah, that's true.
And he was at the race on the weekend, amazingly. So, I mean, stories.
He looks so well. He looks healthier now than.
Well, he's smiling because he doesn't have to do like media every day, and
have an ice cream whenever he wants.
Someone outpressed you, and you're not taking it.